Okay, get ready for a snooze fest. Have you ever wondered what the most common word in the English language is? Why, the most common word is in fact the word the. Yes, it is used about once every 16 words that we say. Now, you're probably thinking, what weirdo took the time to figure this out? Because that sounds pretty boring. It was actually George Kingsley Ziff. Well, George Kingsley Ziff was a American linguist who lived from 1902 to 1950, and he first found this weird phenomenon, and, well, he didn't find it, he popularized it and wanted to explain it to the population of, the first person to find it was a French stenographer who found it very interesting that this was going on. Ziff's law does not only work on language, though. It also works on, well, just about anything else you can think of. Ziff's law applies to our everyday language. As I just pointed out, the most common word in the English language is the. Well, it's very simple that the fact that it's 1 out of every 16 words is the word the. Now it's a bit exaggerated in my speech because I have to say the to describe that the word is the. But yeah, well, in fact, the 20 most common words, I'm going to have to read this out, in the English language are, and I, as followed, the, of, and, to, a, in, is, I, that, it, for, you, was, on, have, but, be, they. The word of is used half the amount of the word the. Of is the second most used word. Now, the word and, the third most used word, is used a third amount of time of the. Now, this is a weird way of thinking about it, that everything is proportional to its ranking. So the word family is the 250th most common word in the English language, and that is used 250th amount. It is used once out of 250 times that the is used. It is very interesting how everything fits so perfectly on this graph. But it doesn't just work with the English language. It works with pretty much every language. Even ones that we haven't yet been able to translate yet still follow this by the recurrence of symbols. Hieroglyphics was a great example of this. Before we found the Rosetta Stone, we realized that before we translate it all the way, we realized that it was following the same pattern of it being a half, third, and so forth. But it applies to more than just languages. In addition, this law not only works with other things, but also with places. Like the most common website, which is Google, obviously, and then every other website directly proportional to Google. So I don't know the exact, but I think it's YouTube is the second most common, and it is searched half the amount of time as Google. Now, when you think about it, it makes sense because most people have Google already up on their page whenever they open up their internet, and then they use Google to find other websites. But in addition to that, populations around U.S. New York is the most populated, then second is Los Angeles, and then third is Chicago, and it follows the same pattern again. But not just population, but food. Ice cream is a great example, as always. I mean, come on. Vanilla is the most popular ice cream, then chocolate, then strangely enough, butter pecan. I've never been a big fan, but it's how it works. The crisp chocolatiness of chocolate ice cream is only enjoyed half the amount of time of this soft vanilla ice cream. Now take music into consideration. The hard rock music amplified by its electric bass is sold the most, the CDs at least. Then you have next with your alternative music with its ever-changing style is sold half the amount of time as rock. Then with your rhythm and blues such as Prince is sold a third of the amount of time as rock. Ziff's law is shocking and it applies to a seemingly infinite number of things. Can you now see why Ziff's law is just about for anything? There are several other laws and principles that work with Ziff's law too. The 80-20 principle is a great example of this. When you walk around your house, you can tell that the 20% of the carpet that you walk on is going to be the 80% that is used the most or most worn down. Now, the 20 most common words, or out of 100 of the most common words, the first 20 are used 80% of the time. Out of all the words that we will use, are used 80% of the time. Now it's really crazy how this random phenomenon fits so perfectly on a graph. But I could talk for hours about this, but I really do challenge you to do some research for yourself. That's it.